Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Let me move this over. And welcome to our general body meeting for January. The agenda that we'll be going through today is just to go through our mission and professional values proposition. And then we'll have a guest speaker, Mr. Chris Draft, and then our keynote speaker, Mr. Phillip Gibson, where our moderators will be Kirsten Ingram and Brian Goings. And then we'll take some questions and have an adjournment of the meeting. So this is how we start off every NSBE meeting is to go through the NSBE mission. Just to give a little bit about NSBE, it's a nonprofit that's a student-run organization. So our highest leadership is at the collegiate level, typically either a college student or a graduate student studying engineering. And it has professional level, collegiate level, and then pre-college K through 12 members. And so our mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. And our NSBE value proposition for the professionals is that the NSBE professionals inspire the next generation of technical professionals and serve as a catalyst for transforming the culture of engineering. And so within NSBE, that is the entire point of the organization, is to build up our pipeline and to have the professionals give back to the pre-college and the collegiate students, as well as building professional skills and developing ourselves as engineering professionals. So now we will have some words from Mr. Chris Draft, who started the Chris Draft Family Foundation.
Mr. Draft, are you able to?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. So thank you guys for having me here at your meeting. Kirsten, is there something specific that as we talked the other about 2 weeks ago and we talked about this meeting, is there something, has that changed in terms of what you want me to share with the group here?
Definitely. First and foremost, thank you, Mr. Draft, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. If you could talk to us a little bit about your advocacy work, as well as the work that you do with the Team Draft Initiative, as well as ways that we can keep ourselves healthy as a way to be an advocate against ways to prevent lung cancer. And then we can go into our presentation by Mr. Phillip Gibson in regards to radon awareness.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys for having me here. Kirsten, thank you for the invite, the personal invite. Again, my name is Chris Draft. You guys can see it. I played in the NFL for 12 years, graduated from Stanford University with a degree in economics, basically economics and history major. Again, played in the NFL for 12 years. I started my foundation in 2006. The reason why I started my foundation, I think it's so important for people to understand, is that I had pursued the NFL with a passion, not only to be able to play in it, but with a passion of understanding that with the platform of the #1 sport in America, that we could make people aware of anything. And if we could make people aware of it, then we could actually change it. So, I founded the Chris Draft Family Foundation again in 2006 when I was playing for the Carolina Panthers, and I got to a point where I built the relationships within the NFL. I had fought to get to know how the NFL worked, along with the people that were a part of running this amazing thing called the NFL. And I realized at that moment that I can only push our community. I can only push our NFL to be able to do so much more within our communities if our communities weren't ready for the change. And that sounds crazy, because so many people will say, well, why doesn't the NFL do more? Or why don't players do more? And unfortunately, in so many cases, it's not the lack of a team wanting to do more or a player that wants to do more. It's really more about, does the community actually want to maximize the player and the team and the relationship? And so I saw that as an issue. I saw that as a problem. And I could sit there and I could sit back and I could say, man, it's so unfortunate that our communities are not bringing good ideas. They're not bringing ideas that are more about a team. They're more of a collaborative. I could be mad because they're not doing that, or I could get out in the community. And even though I was playing in the league, I had time. I had time, and it was critical, but I needed a team of people that could get out in the community, right? Because if we were going to make sure that we could make a change, again, we had to really understand how the community worked and really find out who are the people. And so that's the heart and soul of the Chris Draft Family Foundation. And we had some basic initiatives that really come back to empowering families to live healthy lifestyles. Our Team Draft initiative was created in 2011 as an extra, an additional initiative. And that initiative that is specifically related to lung cancer, because my wife, Keisha, was diagnosed with lung cancer in December of 2010, 37 years old, in amazing shape, and never smoked in her life. And I mean, this just picture of health that had a little shortness of breath. And instead of, shrugging it off, and I tell people that, a lot of guys, so there's guys on this show, on this thing, Elliot being, I see you, and I know there's some other ones that, as guys too often, unless your leg is about to fall off or your arm is about to fall off, you don't go into the doc. And so my wife wasn't like that. She felt a little shortness of breath and had a great relationship with her primary care doc and went in right away. And so I say my story, and I want to stop there just a little bit so that people can really soak on that. What I'm saying is that my wife got diagnosed with lung cancer. That is unfortunate. It's 37 years old, but she was intentional about knowing her body. She was intentional about being in great shape and taking care of her body. And when she understood and felt that there was something wrong, that she trusted the system and went into her primary care doc and was honest with their primary care doc in terms of how she was feeling. She didn't go in there and say, well, I called you and I wasn't feeling well, but now I'm okay. And basically lie because they don't want to say exactly what's wrong. And so I'm saying she was honest with those things. And unfortunately, it came back. She went to, with a great relationship with primary care doc. They did a chest x-ray while she was there. Antibiotics, came back. She had a mass in her left lung. 2 weeks after Christmas, December 27, 2010, she had a biopsy and we confirmed that it was lung cancer. We found out the most important fact about lung cancer, and that is that anyone can get it. Now, if you would have said that to me before my wife was diagnosed, would it really have soaked in? Would it completely went over my head? I would say pretty much absolutely. But when the woman that is in amazing shape, is 37 years old, is standing right in front of you and it's saying, based on a biopsy, that she has lung cancer, then you understand very clearly and absolutely that she has lung cancer and that anyone can get it. January, we went in our first oncology meeting or appointment, and we had got a PET scan before that, and Keisha had got an MRI right around that time because it can spread to her brain, and we found out, unfortunately, it was stage 4 lung cancer. So we found out the second most important fact, and that is that lung cancer is too often found late stage, and that late stage being 3 and 4. Again, if you would have asked me about staging before my wife, I would have needed the help or the phone a friend, to know which one is worse. 1, 2, 3, 4, which one is worse? Well, I know without a doubt that stage 4 is the worst. It says that it's spread, that it has metastasized, which is just a nice way of saying, or a terrible way of saying, whatever way you want to see it, it still means the cancer is spread, right? So 37 years old, amazing shape, go from, working out, challenging me to do P90X, run a 10K race with her, and next thing you know, she's got stage 4 lung cancer. There have been some amazing, changes through research that had happened that were right there on the cusp, that were there. Unfortunately, my wife was, she could not, her makeup of her disease didn't make it where she could be on those particular drugs. And so she ended up passing a year later. She was on standard chemo and radiation and chemo and passed December 27, 2011. And, it's what this thing looks like. But before she passed, and that's why I say this Team Draft initiative, it was launched when my wife came to me before our wedding date, November 27, 2011. She said, what if we don't get presents? What if we stand up for the lung cancer community? What if we ask our family and friends to give money to the foundation so that we can fight against lung cancer? And so that's what we did. I said, baby, that sounds great. Sounds good with me. And so Team Draft was launched on our wedding day. And we made two commitments, one to each other, and then the other one to the lung cancer community. And that commitment is what we've been, the last 10 years has really fueled us. We're changing the face of lung cancer. And, it seems like it's, changing the face of lung cancer, kind of the simplicity of that. But it's real, and it's something so many people have not accepted, is that we have to accept the history so that we can change the narrative in moving forward and make sure that we do educate people about what's going on. So much of the lung cancer community says, well, people don't know that anyone can get it. And I'm over here saying, well, if my wife didn't get diagnosed, how would I know unless somebody told me, right? People don't know that research matters. I said, well, how would I know that research matters if I didn't have to go to cancer centers, right? Because who wants to go to a cancer center? Who says, hey, I want to go and visit a cancer center? Ain't nobody's doing that, right? I'm going out to California this weekend, and I've joked with a number of people that you go on vacation and nobody is saying, I need to go to Santa Monica Pier, I need to go to Griffith Park, and I need to go to Cedars-Sinai, I want to go to SoFi, and I want to go to UCLA Johnson Cancer Center, and I want to go to Staples Center, and then I want to go to USC Norris. Ain't nobody doing that. So unless you have a connection, you don't really understand the importance of research unless somebody tells you specifically that it's there, along with the idea that if someone doesn't tell you that screening matters, if somebody doesn't tell you that there are new treatments, you will not know that. If they don't let you know that survivorship actually is possible, you won't know it. So changing the face of lung cancer has been a commitment to being honest about our history. Honesty about the history says that the mission for lung cancer as a community was really focused completely on getting people to stop smoking, a little bit of air quality, a little bit of occupational hazards, but really a huge focus just on getting people to stop smoking. So to change the face of lung cancer is to acknowledge that, yes, prevention is critical, or risk reduction is absolutely critical, but the message, and you guys are going to hear from the keynote, is incomplete. Because yes, we need to get people to stop smoking. That's absolutely, but that's going to help diseases across the board. We have to do that. The other part is we have to make sure our air quality is better. Yes, we have to make sure our occupations, but we have to understand radon, that is considered the #1 cause of someone who hasn't smoked that gets lung cancer. But we also have to emphasize the importance of just a healthy lifestyle in general. We have to let people know about early detection through nodule clinics, through screening. We have to talk about the new therapies that come with biomarker testing and our immunotherapy and celebrate the fact that those things in the last 10 years are transformative. We have to talk about access to clinical trials, because right now clinical trials in lung cancer can be better than the drugs that are actually there. They just haven't been approved yet. We have to talk about that access. We have to talk about the importance of research so people can support it. We have to celebrate the victories of research that have produced more drugs for lung cancer. More drugs have been approved in the last few years than any other cancer. And that wouldn't, just the idea of drugs being approved wouldn't be anything special if I didn't know that those drugs are only approved because they are extending life and making lives better. And then survivorship, meeting people where they are and acknowledging that it is a person that is diagnosed with this disease. It's not just a disease. We're not just fighting against it. We are fighting for people. Changing the face of lung cancer. So thank you guys for, inviting me to be here and be able to share just a little bit. And I'm glad that you guys are going to find out a little bit more specifically as it relates to radon. And again, the only way that you will understand it, the only way that you will know it is if somebody makes you aware of it. So if I'm not here or somebody else is not here, we can't hold people accountable. So what I'll say is that hopefully you learn and you're inspired and you get this information. I'll just ask you to do is just share it. Now, you don't have to push it on somebody. You don't got to choke somebody out. You ain't got to tackle somebody like me. I'm an NFL linebacker. You ain't got to try to put them down, right? But as you are having some conversations, and I played for the Rams, so if you guys want to use that as you're watching the games, I also played for the San Francisco 49ers. So if you're watching the game and you want to slip something in because, hey, you're watching the Rams, you're watching the 49ers. I grew up and I was a Chiefs fan, and so you can kind of slide that in potentially. I played for the Buffalo Bills, and everybody's saying, oh my goodness, overtime has to change. But within those conversations this weekend or this week, as you guys are having it, there just might be an opportunity that all of a sudden you're talking about football and says, hey, this old football player talked to us and said, let me tell you a little bit of something about radon. So don't have to beat them over the head, but hopefully you have a chance to educate them and know that it might seem a little bit much, but any person that you educate, any bit of awareness, we win, right? It's not going to be, we're not going to change everything in one day. It's going to be a commitment that is every day. So thank you guys for having me, and thank you for your commitment. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Draft. And if everyone can join me in just giving you a huge round of applause for all the work that you do in the community and that you do it from your heart with such a drive and a passion. And we just cannot say thank you enough for all that you're doing to increase the awareness as well as to ignite the movement. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face, Mr. Draft. My mom is in the living room listening, and she's giving you huge fist bumps.
Well, hopefully she can feel me. She can feel my energy, and hopefully everybody here can feel it. Again, we're fighting for people. I mean, I want you to get that. Anytime somebody is asking me, well, how is it that your mission is lung cancer and it changed and it changed? And I said, my mission ain't changed. I love people. It just happens I added a little bit of lung cancer to it. But it's about folks, right? So wherever you guys are able to help with educating and making people aware, it gives us an opportunity to be able to change things and take care of people.
Thank you. And the next few moments, Mr. Draft, if you could also share about the White Ribbon Project.
Oh. I
was chatting a little bit with the president about that, and was thinking about some things.
Awesome. Well, I said, we're changing the face of lung cancer, that it really starts with acknowledging our history, and it's critical that we say it's about people. And so, the White Ribbon Project, it was started by Heidi and Pierre Onda. Heidi is a survivor that's in Denver, and she had bought into our message that if we're not making people aware, then we can't hold them accountable for not being aware. I mean, what a concept, right? If we don't educate somebody, that we can't hold them accountable for the knowledge that comes with education. So she, with a number of advocates in Denver, were asking some of the local cancer centers, what are you doing for Lung Cancer Awareness Month in 2020? And they had no answer. And they continue to have no answer. And finally, September 27, 2020, one of the cancer centers basically said, we basically have a plan because all our doctors wear white coats and there's white lights in the parking lot. And basically, I mean, if that's not obvious that that's some BS, right? It is. And so she got mad, and instead of just getting mad and putting her head in the sand and saying the heck with it, what she did is she yelled out to her husband, and you're videoing it, so we're recording it, so I can't say it exactly how she said it because I don't want you guys to make me look bad. But needless to say, she said, "Make me a big such and such white ribbon so I can put it up on the door. You guys can fill in the blanks. It's grown folk language, and let me get this big ribbon. I'm gonna put it on the door. I'm gonna put facts in the law, and I do not have to ask anybody else for permission, right?" And she put it up on her door. And she shared it with the local folks in Denver. And she said, we can stand up. And it wasn't that they could make a ribbon. She was just telling them that we can stand up, regardless of what the cancer centers or organizations are doing, we can stand up. And they said, could we get a ribbon? And, her husband was like, yeah, I'll make you guys one too. Next thing you know, with Zoom calls, national Zoom calls, she was able to share it and other people asked. And next thing, people were asking for the ribbons, and when Heidi realized that if someone wanted them, that she wanted them to know that they weren't alone, that they could get it. And then if they felt like that they could hold it up and they felt not ashamed to do that, then we were winning. And so that's what the White Ribbon Project, that's where it was founded. It was founded by a survivor that instead of, just sitting back, she said, you know what, let's take control. I can do it. You can do it. We can do it. If there's awareness that needs to be brought to the public, we have to do it. And if not, it's our fault. And so the White Ribbon Project, again, is an inclusive community that recognizes that anybody who wants to move this ball forward, you are a part of this community. Any of you guys, if you want to move things forward, you can get a ribbon. It doesn't matter if you're a survivor or the type of survivor. It doesn't matter if you have smoking history. It doesn't matter if you're this mutation, this. It doesn't matter where you live. If you're in North Carolina, California, if you're in Canada, if you're in Europe, if you're in Australia, it does not matter. If you want things to move forward, then it's okay. And whatever role that you play is the role that you play. And we appreciate you for that. Not asking you to be something that you're not. It's an inclusive, it's unbranded because it's greater than any one organization. We need everybody. We need a team of people that are committed to tackling and jacking this disease up so that we can fight for our people. It is an initiative that is built on love. And that's what I say, we are fighting for people. The ribbons are made with love, that they are given with love for people to know that they are loved. Because that's the only reason why we fight. So that's the White Ribbon Project. You guys got any questions, Kirsten is right there. And, anytime you guys want to find out more, that's, you feel free to reach out and just know that's what it comes back to. It comes back to love. I've just was over at the King Center and buying a couple of shirts. They say "Be Love" on it. That's what Dr. King was about, right? I'm here in Atlanta. Every bit of his message came back to love, and that's what this is. If we don't love our people, then it doesn't even matter. There you go.
There it is. Thank you. And as a visual, my white ribbon will not fit all the way in the screen, but definitely wanted to show everybody what the white ribbons look like. Oh,
I see Phillip has his too, man. Oh, as you guys just let me I'm gonna just give you a little bit more. So while you're showing off that ribbon, I want you to understand the process of making it. So Heidi and Pierre, you can see on my bio it says between 20 and 30,000 people who've never smoked get diagnosed with lung cancer. It's actually about 20%. So it can be more than that in terms of the 235,000 people are diagnosed every year, and the key is 235,000 is a lot of people. So the only way, Heidi and Pierre, they were like, man, if somebody, we don't want anybody to feel like they're alone. And so we want them all to get ribbons. And that sounds good. I mean, that's a huge, and how do you say it? It's a noble goal and effort. But the idea that they would make 235,000 ribbons and more is crazy. Because there's no way they could do it by themselves, but what it did is it presented the opportunity, and the opportunity is real. And that is that it takes a team to make sure, to validate it. It's not about them saying that they care about people and that people are loved. It's about a community saying that all of our people are loved. And so when we are making these ribbons, if you're in your community, that we ideally want them to be made at home in that particular community, given to our people in our community, then the first thing you would do is take that ribbon that Kirsten has, that Phillip has, and you trace it. And you trace it onto some plywood, this 1/4-inch plywood, and what we challenge people to do is to reflect. In that moment, you recognize that you received a ribbon with love, and the ribbons that you're going to make, the ribbons that you're tracing are for people that need to know that they are not alone, that they have people that are fighting for them. If you're just making them because you want to make some ribbons, we challenge people. I say, back up, put the pencil down. We don't need you to make them. Because if you're not making them for people, we don't need you to make them. So go back and get your mind right. Get your mind right. This is a movement about people. So you're going to trace them. And then after tracing, then we have to cut them. We get a jigsaw and we cut them. And in cutting, it's a reminder that it's going to take work if we want things to change. But it's also intentional work. So if we want there to be a ribbon, we're going to cut out a ribbon. So just like I said, if we want an awareness about radon, we have to do radon awareness. We have to do that work. So specific work is going to get it done, but it is work. Once you cut them, you have to sand them. And sanding them, there might be a stack of ribbons, and it's critical that as you're sanding them, that it doesn't just become a number of ribbons, but that each ribbon is a person. It's an individual. So you take time in sanding it. And some people will say, well, it could end up taking a little while. I said, well, if it seems like you're rushing the sand, then you're doing too many ribbons. Don't compromise the sanding for the individual because you decided to do too much, right? Take your time doing it. When we paint it white. That's the color for lung cancer. And it's a reminder that this is the team that we are on. We are on one team, but at the same time, validate that it's an inclusive team. So you're not making it just white for this kind of group. You're not making it white for that kind of group. You're making it white for the whole community of people. It has to dry. And so it has to dry. The drying process says that sometimes you just got to sit back. You got to just allow the process to happen. Then we put a label on it. The label says we put a white ribbon. The white ribbon is there. We don't want people to have to guess what we're doing. We want to make it absolutely and abundantly clear. This big A white ribbon says lung cancer awareness on it. If you were wondering what it's for lung cancer awareness. We don't want there to be any confusion. Lung cancer awareness. And then you sign it on the back. And when you sign it on the back, it's because you're endorsing it. You put that work in. You started it. You were intentional about making it with love, and you followed the process, and you are signing it on the back so that you can now give it. It's going to be given to somebody with love. Because that's the real final process. They're not about making them. They have to be given out. They are made to be given. So thank you guys, man. Let me share a little bit on that, man. Let me get into it.
And I really appreciate your story and for taking the time to talk to us, Chris. Like my mother is a breast cancer survivor. And so for, I guess, my middle school through high school time period was when she was battling with cancer. And so that's been influential even in my own career and partially why I'm in the pharmaceutical industry. And so it's been a pleasure to have you out. And it's just, I personally relate to your story and your passion. And we're sorry for your loss and appreciate all that you're doing in the community and trying to change the face. And so I appreciate it.
Thanks, boss. Like I said, man, we know that our communities, the families and the communities are affected by this. We know that the people that are fighting, that are on the front lines, that when people die, that is a difficult thing to carry. I would say that a lot of our oncologists have a little bit of PTSD, right? And there were folks that they couldn't understand why in the first year I went to 60 cancer centers. They couldn't understand that. I said, I got to go talk to my people. I got to go find out how they're doing and what they need. And they were like, well, I just don't get why you would go. I said, me, these people are on the front lines. I got to go find out how my people are doing. I got to go check in on them and encourage them, right? This ain't hard what we got to do in terms of the process, but it's work because it's cancer. And that daggone joker can be a beast sometimes. Right. All right. Well, thank you guys. Good luck with the rest of the meeting. And again, if you guys got any questions, Kirsten can get in touch with me. And like I said, it's all good. All good. Any questions, let me know, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you again. And if we can have Tony McFarland. Tony, are you on the line? Tony? Maybe she stepped away for a moment. If we can move to
Yes, I'm on the line.
Oh, okay. Hey, Tony, would you like to introduce our honorary guest that's on the line?
Oh yeah, I will let Corey introduce himself. Thought he might want to be here and just kind of hear this tonight, this conversation around radon. I know a lot of our families have been touched by cancer and not really understanding how radon has impacted our families. I think this would be good to understand, but maybe there's some value here and some opportunity to have some policy change or understand how this can help us out in the local area in Raleigh. So I'm going to ask Corey if he would just introduce himself. I don't know how long he can stay, but I thought he might be interested in this content. He is a former president of the chapter. So Corey, are you there? Okay, maybe he dropped out. He was in here earlier. So we'll proceed. If he happens to get back in, then maybe he can share a few words on how this information can help us here locally in Raleigh.
Thank you, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce an amazing and outstanding colleague that I've had the pleasure of working with. Oh, wow, Phillip, it's been at least 6 years now that we've been working together. It's a pleasure to introduce Phillip Gibson. He is with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and he serves as the North Carolina Radon Program Coordinator. So without further ado, I pass the virtual microphone to Mr. Gibson.
Hey, thank you. All right, I can share my screen here, and I'll work through the slides to be respectful of the time. I understand 7:30 is the end, so bear with me as I kind of press through these quickly, okay? But there are some important points that I want to make sure that are clear, because the important points are the relevancy, like you were just asking about, at the local level, both in Raleigh or in North Carolina. So what I want to share with you is what is radon, an overview of radon state levels. So where are we seeing high levels? What is the adverse health effect? If you don't know that already, it's lung cancer. And then looking at 3 particular data sets to tell a story about what I'm trying to get at, which is education reaching everyone equally? Are tests occurring for everyone equally? Are mitigation systems being implemented equally, if you will? Some of those I have some answers to. The others I am wanting to find partners to help get the answers to. So that's part of the future work. And then the last is how to obtain a free radon test kit, which you can do this month. So I want you to share that with your friends and family to get the word out. So that's an immediate action point. So radon is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers in the United States. And roughly 21,000 people die each year in the United States from radon-induced lung cancer. And within North Carolina, we're looking at approximately 450 every year that die from radon-induced lung cancer. If radon-induced lung cancer was its own cancer type, which it's not in the overall statistics that are given each year through CDC and so forth, but if it was, it would be in the top 10. So you can see lung and bronchus cancer deaths there. So that includes smoking and other causes of lung cancer. But if you just extracted the 21,000 for radon-induced lung cancer, again, it would be in the top 10. As a result, then the North Carolina Cancer Control Plan, in both the last iteration of, which is a 5-year plan, and this most recent action plan, radon-induced lung cancer is regarded as a priority issue. And what that means is that there's a number of people from a number of different organizations who have said, I want to help with education, with research, with a number of different things. So it gave a lot of both street cred and professional cred to the subject matter, which then engaging Duke Cancer Institute, engaging Wake Forest Cancer, engaging the Lung Cancer Initiative of North Carolina, and so many other, the Cancer Control Branch of North Carolina. So one of the questions I'm asked of a lot is, what is a safe level or an acceptable level of radon? Well, every level of radon carries some risk for lung cancer. Even the natural outdoor level of 0.4 picocuries per liter has some risk to it. It's a low risk, but nonetheless it's there. We recommend that if you test your home and you find a radon level that is at 4 or more picocuries per liter, then we recommend that you hire a certified professional that would then lower the level in your home. And there's a number of steps that are included in that, and we help guide people to know what questions to ask of the person that they are interviewing to hire, and what they may want in their contracts and so forth. I'm not getting into that, but just to know that there is a process for mitigation, and mitigation is something that we strongly recommend if your level is 4 or more, but we ask folks to still consider mitigation if your level is between 2 and 4. So the addition is just the word strongly, if you will. And I want to underscore that 4 picocuries per liter, while it is an action level where we strongly recommend that you consider mitigation, it is not a public health standard. There is not a public health standard for radon, neither in radon in air or in water for that matter. This is old data. If you see this map out there, my request is just don't use it to make assumptions about the prevalence of or the risk level of having radon in your home or not, and so forth. It's a map that was created back in 1993, and there are 8 counties that are in red. And with the data that we had, like geological data and so forth, there were a number of tests also conducted in homes and in schools and such. And what the Environmental Protection Agency came up with was this map for every state to help guide states, local governments with understanding where to focus education or efforts around this subject radon, which was relatively new for governments. So at that time, then it was focusing high-risk areas, in red, these 8 counties. Orange meant that the level on average would be between 2 and 4 picocuries per liter, and yellow would be counties where the average was under 2 picocuries per liter. Now, the reason that I say that this map gives you a false sense of security and a false sense of alarm is because we have new data. We have data that ranges from test kits that have been conducted in homes since since the beginning of 1996, when test kits were being used, with a data set that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention now manages on their website, on the Environmental Public Health Tracking Network site. It is from 2007 to 2017. Of course, we continue to get the data from test kit companies, so we have it as recent as 2022. But what that data shows is that 77 of the 100 counties in North Carolina have all had elevated radon levels in at least one home. That includes even out in Dare County on the coastal region. So what I did is I pulled the numbers, the highest maximum, rather pre-mitigation level. Mitigation, again, is fixing the home. So the maximum level before mitigation occurred, that's what's reflected here. So in Wake County, for example, the highest level is 257.8. So that's the highest level that we know of in that county per this test kit data. Now, I want to point out Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. So in that zone map, just to show you, it's yellow, okay? So that means that at that time we thought, well, the risk is low because the average is really below 2 picocuries per liter. But what we know is the highest level in Mecklenburg County is 44 picocuries per liter. And there are buildings, knowing that some of you all are a variety of different types of engineers, I know, but for those of you all that may be into construction, just understand that there's a number of buildings that are yet to be built that are already advertising to have radon mitigation systems in these condominium high rises, mid rises, and single family homes. So they're proactively installing mitigation systems into these buildings. And there's a number of homes in this county or all these counties that have been installed, radon mitigation systems that have been installed. By the way, the yellow highlight for the numbers means that it was in yellow on the zone map. So to help you with that. The areas where you have hash marks, and that means we have insufficient data. And of course, the orange is the highest level was under 4 picocuries per liter, or between 2 and 4, and then yellow, it's under 2. But just note, Wilmington high rises can have elevated radon level. Radon is from geology, from uranium that's in naturally in rock and soil, but we quarry rock and we transport it and we make building materials with it. And as a result, we are building buildings with elevated radon levels. So a point that you need to know is the energy of radon. So radon, or the alpha particles that they are not strong enough to go through paper. So it's not a particle that's going to go through our skin. Beta particle, for example, or energy radiation can go through paper but can't go through aluminum. And of course, a gamma can go through paper, or aluminum cannot go through lead. The particles that we're talking about with radon are alpha particles. So they get into our body by either inhaling or ingesting. Inhaling, obviously, the air, ingesting private well water, which is where it could be. We cannot smell, see, or taste radon, but there is this device called a cloud chamber that allows us to see radon. They're using isopropyl or rubbing alcohol, rubbing that onto the surface of this glass. They're going to place a piece of uranium on the center of that. They're then going to enclose that, first putting more alcohol on the perimeter of the felt that's on the lid, on the inside lid. And this unit is really to eliminate the light and also create cooling within that enclosure. You can create these with dry ice and be much more simple about it for instruction. But what they're going to do next, after they plug in the device for both the light and the refrigeration, is they're going to shut off the overhead light. They're going to plug it in, illuminate the light. They're going to zoom in on the piece of uranium inside that enclosure. And what we'll be able to see is radon particles or radiation particles, alpha tracks, shooting away or emanating from the piece of uranium. And they will be in the form, or what we will see them as, is flat, broad, white lines. Now, the reason I share this with you is that this is the activity that's going on either in the ground or in building materials. Okay, so these radioactive particles are being released, they're becoming available in whatever environment. And then a building with its negative pressure, its vacuum effect, is drawing in these particles. And that's how we get higher concentrations of radon in the buildings. There's a number of pathways that the radon can go through. So it could be the joints where the walls and the floors come together, the voids around the electrical or plumbing lines. It could be cracks where the home is settled, all of this. Or it could be, if you have well water, that could be the pathway because the water is coming in contact with the gases in the ground. That when you turn on the spigot or you run the washing machine, whatever, you're also releasing gases along with the water. So that's how it could be a source of elevated radon in the air. people want often a predictor. They want to know, well, what's it like in my subdivision or in my next door neighbor or my county or my state and so forth. And you really cannot make a prediction as to whether or not a home has an elevated radon level based on the other homes around it or looking at zip code based data like I've already shown you. What we can say to folks is that 1 in 15 homes in the United States has a level of 4 picocuries per liter or more. So then the question is, well, what does that mean? What's 4 picocuries per liter? What's the risk for radon-induced lung cancer from that level? Well, there are 3 variables that influence your risk for radon-induced lung cancer. 1 is the level, so we'll look at that. 2 is the length of time that you're exposed to that average level, meaning that radon, it changes hour by hour based on the vacuum effect of the home. So that could be cooler outside, warmer inside, and that influences the vacuum effect, right? So it could be diurnal cycle, the night, the day, the cold temperature, warm temperature, inside and out. All of that influences the radon level inside the home. So we can't rely upon 1 hour of testing. We have to rely on a longer period of testing, and that period is a minimum of 48 hours. And when we measure at that period of 48 hours, we're making an assumption that that's the average that we have over the year, every year for a lifetime, okay? So when we're testing to identify what's the average for the whole year, and we're assuming that that's the average that we're gonna have every year for the next, say, 60 years. So the second variable, length of time, this table reflects lifetime exposure. So looking at 60 years or something. The third variable is whether or not you are a smoker or have been a smoker. And a smoker is somebody who has smoked 100 cigarettes or more ever in their life. So a never smoker is under 100 cigarettes. So look at the table then. So at 4 picocuries per liter for a never smoker in a lifetime of exposure, about 7 people out of 1,000 could get lung cancer. Now, sometimes people think of that number as being a low number because they see 7, but let me just say, if the lottery had those kind of odds, 7 out of 1,000, I would actually play the lottery. Okay, that's pretty high odds. Okay, and looking back at the high levels like 257 in Wake County, I just want to use the high number that's on this table and show that 20 picocuries per liter for, again, a never smoker, about 36 people out of 1,000 could get lung cancer. Now, let's say that you're a smoker. Maybe you smoked, you know, when you were younger or at some period in your life, and then you quit, and it was 100 cigarettes or more, then you are an ever smoker. So the risk then goes up. At 4 picocuries per liter, your risk is 62 out of 1,000. With that kind of odds at the lottery, I might double down on buying more tickets. And then with 20, you're looking at 260 out of 1,000. So it's really high risk associated with radon-induced lung cancer. So this gets into then the data that I want to share with you about making a difference. So Kirsten knows this. I'm actually with her role at Duke Cancer Institute. I'm speaking with the senior officers there with Dr. Paterno, Dr. Toomey, and Dr. Moore, so forth, is trying to get researchers, and it sounds like they're interested in embarking upon this, and that is to understand where the deficiencies in education. Are we reaching people equally, particularly around race? If not, then what do we need to do differently? I already think I know the answers to these questions, and some of this data I'm going to share with you reflects what I've presumed anyways, which is that radon is an equity issue. It's an environmental justice issue. And that's what I'm going to share with you. So the behavioral risk factor surveillance system is something that the Center for Disease Control actually requires, and they have a set number of questions that every state in the country has to conduct. So they phone survey, they ask all these questions about health and demographics and so forth. And we are an agency that is able to, for several times now, pay $5,000 a question to have a question asked on that survey, okay? So we've done that several times now, asked 3 questions. That's all we could afford. And so then the state administers that, and here are the answers, at least part of the answers to those questions. So in 2015 and in 2019, we had them ask this question of folks that they surveyed. Do you know what radon gas is? In 2015, and I went ahead and just segmented based on this particular demographic point, because this is what I'm interested in knowing. So among Black men, non-Hispanic Black men, 18%, close to 19% said yes, they knew what radon gas is. Clearly then, 81% said no, they did not. And then if you look at their white counterpart, what were their answers? So that's 2015. And then I look at 2019. So we saw an increase in the knowledge, right? What is radon? Do you know what radon gas is? So we went from 18% to 36, or 18 to 38 among men, Black men or Black women. And then we saw an increase, though, that was much higher for their white counterparts. So we saw it went from 30 to 70 and 27 to 60. So that's just one question, looking at just 2 years. The next question, and I'm just sharing two of the 3 questions. Has your household been tested for the presence of radon gas? So 18% said yes in 2015 among Black males, 22% said yes in 2019. So there's not that much of a difference there, but there's still an increase, and the numbers are still higher, if you will. Because you're looking at 18% versus 30%, 18 versus 27%, right? So the numbers are definitely higher among white versus Black. So then the question is, well, okay, you have high levels, what do you do about that? And I want to make note that there are engineering principles then, knowing what you all do and thinking you might have interest in seeing what the best practices are, the engineering standards are for mitigating homes. Know that there are standards for single family, multifamily, large buildings. Large buildings are like, schools or commercial buildings. And if you take these 3 categories, then you look at, okay, existing buildings, existing single family, or new construction of single family, and likewise multifamily and large buildings. So those are what publications are available at this site. So if you wanted to go check those out. But here's the basics of it, just looking at a single family home. So if you are installing a system in a brand new home, a new construction, this is what a system might look like. It's got a suction point PVC pipe that's extending up into the attic. A junction box would be added here in case you needed to activate the system. So without the system, you're using the heat stack event to help draw gases out. Once the house is complete, you test it, see if it has a high radon level. If it does, then it needs to be activated. Again, the junction box was already included in here. You cut the pipe, install a fan, and then you're able to discharge the radon outdoors. Now, the reason we could do that is because radon has a half-life of 3.8 days. So it's constantly decaying into other things. For an existing home, you can't have a fan inside the home, because if you had a leak, you would have potentially hundreds or thousands of levels of picocuries per liter, and then people would be exposed to that. So the fan's outside, and again, discharging it above. This point of suction could be in a crawl space, in a slab on grade, or a basement concrete flooring. Now, so that you know, this new construction element is actually being done by a number of groups who are building affordable housing. Habitat for Humanity, any group that's an affordable housing builder that's being reviewed by System Vision, which is a third-party energy certification body, a guarantee body. They are now requiring passive systems to be installed in those buildings. We don't have anything to do with that. That's something that they're doing. But the reason I bring that up around engineering efforts and what you all may be able to get involved with is that we need standards in the building codes. We need the standards, the best practices in the North Carolina building codes to help guide this. I can tell you in Wake County realized that System Vision was actually requiring this of these affordable housing builders. And because there are no standards on the books, then what Wake County decided to do was to require these affordable housing builders to hire an engineer to stamp, which all costs money, right, to assess the mitigation systems, which was increasing the cost of the affordable housing. And I have been working with this group to get them price breaks on equipment and such from the distributors. So it was already negating our complete effort in trying to provide people who are in Habitat for Humanity or other affordable houses to have a radon mitigation system to protect them from radon-induced lung cancer. So it created a huge issue that I can get into later if you want. To just know that there's also funding from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. So if it's somebody who is in need financially, there are funds and an application process that will allow them to have a certified professional who would install a system for them. So mitigation systems, so we know that radon mitigation systems have been installed for a long time, but we don't have data on where mitigation systems exist. There are no laws, rules, or regulations in North Carolina about radon. So everything that I do is educational, and I'm wrestling to try to find data. I have access to one multiple listing service data set, and it's the one out of Charlotte that represents Western North Carolina. So when a real estate broker lists a home now for the Charlotte and West area, they're able to also choose the equipment feature of radon mitigation systems. So if the home that they're listing has a system, they can identify that and it's then broadcasted out to the world. Here's just a list of a few of those homes. Obviously, this is 117 in this particular list, but there are in that list 1,900 roughly from 2017 to 2022 that have been installed, radon mitigation systems in that area. And it's been done in a variety of homes and price points and such. Obviously, mid-rises, condominium, single family homes, and at different ages of homes. So I went and dug through that data. So here's the point. Each one of these homes, remember earlier I showed you the red counties from the 1993 data and how people are fixated that that's only where high radon levels exist. Well, those 8 counties, where 7 of them are represented here by these arrows, okay? So Buncombe County, Allegheny, so forth. But you can see if I go to Mecklenburg County, there are 159 systems that were installed in homes that are in the multiple listing service. So yeah, system. There's also this misinformation that still exists out there about it's a home with a basement, right? And that's not true. So I broke it down into both single family residential and condominium. So this is the single family residential. You'll see where those homes with basements turn out. So that's 1 story, 1.5 story, 2 story, 2.5. But you can see that there's a variety of other homes that don't have basements that do have radon mitigation systems. There's only 2 home types that would not be susceptible for elevated radon level. One is a tree house, the other is a houseboat.
And Phillip?
You need me to wrap it up?
Actually, no, if I could have a quick moment, we do have an elected official on the line really quickly. I apologize for interjecting.
No,
but
sure.
Want to make sure that we're able to introduce him in case he needs to step away.
Yeah.
It's our honor and our pleasure to introduce you to District C Council Member Corey Brand, who is the Mayor Pro Tem.
Awesome.
If
Hey,
you
thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been at a NSB meeting. I was president of this very chapter from 2002 to 2004. So you're very dear to my heart, and I'm glad you're listening and learning about Radon. We definitely have had some issues in Raleigh and Southeast Raleigh. We have a street called Rock Quarry Road. So you can imagine there's a lot of challenges there. But the county, because radon is also a health issue, the county is the one who leads the efforts in that. And to go with Philip's stance about zoning and building changes, the housing, the North Carolina Housing Association, Home Builders Association is a group that I would definitely reach out to, because they have a very big lobbying group that's always down at the General Assembly fighting for and against bills that impact housing. And I think I have a connection with them if y'all are interested in speaking with them on this issue or any other home issues. But that's something to keep in mind as well, because it is regulated by the state of North Carolina, all of these policies. And we try to work to make sure our inspectors, they comply by that, because they do have a state license, even though they work for the city of Raleigh. So again, thanks for having me. I will continue to listen on some more, because there's a lot of good information here. But there's a lot of work if you're looking at changing laws at the General Assembly. You might have to vote some people out.
Yes, indeed. I so appreciate that. And I'm saying that with a big smile on my face as a Wake County resident. So, and in thinking of many of us that are on the line and our 9-to-5s that dictate how we can interact, we definitely are all in to help educate and provide the information for the appropriate decisions to be made. So thank you so much for joining us and for being a fierce leader of this very chapter.
All right, thank you.
Philip, it's back to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was looking, I saw that I had a few questions. So a radon mitigation system for a single family home with a roughly a 2,000 square foot footprint would be about $1,500. So about the cost of a pre-COVID refrigerator. I don't know what refrigerators cost these days, but that $1,500 is about the average. So again, going back to this multiple listing service data. So again, trying to break it out from single family homes to condos. And as the Mayor Pro Temp was talking about in Raleigh, so there are actually high rises in Raleigh. There's homeowner associations that I've been working with over a number of years now, trying to help them with finding a resolve to elevated radon levels on the 8th floor of a high rise. So know that this issue of radon being or uranium being in the building materials, and as the uranium decays, it off gases and decays into radioactive particles that we could then inhale. And it's not just where's your home located within the state. And of course, in Wake County, you also have the Rolesville, R-O-L-E-S-ville geological formation. And of course, you've had a number of homes within the northeastern part of the county that who are on private well water, and they've found elevated radon level and elevated uranium and other radionuclides within their private wells. So and then in the Northeast, my understanding is that there's also a pretty low income population there. And so the funds to help them with remedying this issue are needed, because radon mitigation system for well water is starts around $5,000, $5,500. So also just wanted to point out the median list price of the homes that are in the single family. So you're looking at $480,000. So again, there's a number of people that, or number of homes that are in the 100,000 or so price point. So I want to make sure that you're aware that that exists. And the same with condominiums. The median list price was $285,500 for the condominiums. So again, just trying to break down two more slides to break it down to say that it's not just homes with basements. Of course, you see a greater number here in this particular slide. But when I look at condominiums, condos with basements, it's a lower number than those condos without basements that have radon mitigation systems. Obviously, they had elevated radon levels. Elliot, I appreciate you letting me know about taking more time. I hope that there's time for questions rather than me absorbing it, speaking until 8:30. But the future work are really directed to you. So we have actually presented to the North Carolina Building Code Council twice and had letters of support from Extension Service, from EPA, from the Lung Cancer Initiative of North Carolina, from affordable housing groups, so forth, about the need to have these standards included, not as a requirement that says homes have to be built with radon mitigation systems, but that if radon mitigation systems are going to be installed, then they need to follow a particular standard. I know, as the person that receives, I'm the sole staff person for the state program. So I receive the photographs, the reports of poor installation. And I have a whole slideshow that I could give you on that. But the point is that we've requested that this happen and have been rejected twice. So they've requested additional information, but we currently do not have any laws, rules, or regulations in North Carolina around radon. We're not looking, our program is not looking to have any laws, rules, or regulations about radon in North Carolina. We're just trying to empower local governments with standards, with engineering principles, that if a system is to be installed, then they have a checklist, a way to measure that the system was installed properly. We need to research at the zip code level to determine where the deficiencies are. I've shown you some information, like the BRFSS data that shows that the knowledge is not there entirely. I do work in a number of different circles, as Kirsten knows. I'm involved with Dr. Joan Packenham, with the Women's Health Awareness event. There's other health disparity programs, the Center for Black Health and Equity. Kirsten introduced me to Michael, and we've gotten funds for them. And just a number of other entities to try to get the word out through churches, through organizations, but the gap is still big. And so we need a number of different partners. Hopefully NSB will be one of those to help us with getting the word out. But the research on this is something that I'm talking to Duke Cancer Institute about, to pull what data we have and then identify gaps and fill those in so we can start reaching out better. We need to seize opportunities to develop new partnerships to lower the incident rate of radon-induced lung cancer among all North Carolinians. Again, that reflects back to the user groups where we give free test kits through, like the Women's Wellness Health Awareness event, or others where we can reach populations that we don't normally reach, that don't look like me, right? So the question is, how do we reach those groups? So I need partners to do that. And then broaden educational efforts. And the way that we're doing that now is user groups, like, for example, I have a 4-hour CE course for real estate brokers. And so there's been real estate brokers from the coast to the mountains who have all gone through this training about radon testing, how to empower their clients. We just started last October a new 2-hour CE course for licensed childcare providers throughout North Carolina. So I'm getting more requests for that. We had about 200 that attended the 3 sessions in October of this last year, which was our pilot. And I'm hoping for a lot more later. I can do training for anyone, anywhere, particularly since Zoom is now a tool that everybody seems to be pretty familiar with. So, or I can be somewhere in person if that needs be. But we need to broaden the educational efforts, and I'm open to any suggestions.
Hey,
Lastly, I want you to know that the free test kit still is available through our website. So at a minimum, my hope is that all of you all, if you haven't already tested your home for radon, to simply go to ncradon.org. I've put the picture here because I get a lot of calls saying, I don't see where you can click, but it's right here. Click here to order 1 free test kit. And share with your neighbors. It's super simple. If folks don't get it, I can either talk them through it on the phone or send them a link to a video or whatever works for them. And that's what I have. I see that there are some questions that are in the box. Do you want me to just go to those, Kirsten?
I'm actually here to assist you with that.
Okay. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
So the first question is, do you see a difference between slab and crawl space foundations?
In terms of finding radon, the answer is no, because to be quite frank, we just don't have that data. The data that we have is what the test kit companies provide us, and we know that people test homes wrongly at times. So in any case, if I look at certified professionals, they don't share their data with us, so we don't know where test kits necessarily have been conducted or where the testing has been conducted. I will say that, again, going back to the 1 out of 15 homes in the United States is the only predictor, if you will, that I can use.
The next question asks, do other states have a radon standard or radon mitigation system standard, or anything that could be used as a basis for rules in North Carolina?
So it varies from state to state, but really there's only, I think there are 8 states that have any sort of rules or regulations. Typically those rules or regulations are around certifying the people who do the testing and or mitigation. In terms of standards, there are, for mitigation purposes, there are, so the language is this, consensus-based standards, or consensus-based standards. So the ARST ANSI standards are one set of consensus-based standards that would cover everything in North Carolina, or every state for that matter. The other one that's available, and it's older, it's called Appendix F, which is part of the ICC, the International Code Council. Now, the deficiencies within Appendix F, there's multiple, but one of them is that it's only focused on Zone 1 counties, because it's a holdover from that 1993 zone map that I shared with you. So, and it only deals with new construction. It doesn't deal with existing homes. So the thing that we've been putting forward is really the consensus-based standards that EPA and other states look to as being the most holistic approach, which are the ARST ANSI standards.
Okay. I'm going to kind of combine a question that I had with this next question. It's considering home sales. So the question asks, is there a required disclosure for radon during home sales? And then I would add, has there been a specific building date of houses that you've seen that have the most radon?
The second question, no, I don't have any knowledge or data about that. The first question I can answer only because, for full disclosure, I'm also a real estate broker. I am a broker in charge. I own my own small business. So I have full knowledge about what the Real Estate Commission is doing. And that is, the Real Estate Commission requires that any agent, any licensed agent or broker who's involved in a transaction where the knowledge that the home has an elevated radon level, those agents or brokers are required to disclose that to all parties involved in that home. North Carolina's law is, the Latin phrase is caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. And so sellers are not required to disclose any information for that matter about their home, but brokers are required to discover and disclose. So that's what the law is. It has nothing to do with the radon program or any other, there are no other legal components to it. It's just basically disclosing that by the broker, if it's known.
And then the next, there's two more. So the question is, what is the average price for a radon kit? Trying to better understand the expense that is being subsidized for the free kits.
So the free kits retail at $17 each. And they are manufactured by AirCheck, which is out of Mills River, North Carolina. It's just who we've purchased from through the bidding process of the state. There are a number of other, I think there's 6 other test kit companies, and they're all listed on our website at ncradon.org. So there's a place there that if you want to shop through Amazon or any other place, you could then know what test kit companies are out there and what it is that we guide people towards. On the slide, so if you went to sosradon.org, that's the national program. So if we're out, and this is on our website on that first page, that if we are out of free test kits, if you want to buy a discounted test kit through the national program, that link is there. And I think that they are able to sell them for about $9, I think, each.
Okay, and the next question is, which particular state governmental unit should be lobbied to make this issue more of a priority?
So I can't lobby and can't necessarily speak to that. I would say that the one body where input is always welcome is the Cancer Control Advisory Committee. There's actually a legislative committee, and there's a prevention subcommittee of which myself and Kirsten's actually the co-chair of. So that would be one way, one avenue.
And what are some of the methods used to get rid of or divert the radon out of the home?
Yeah, so this system is called an active depressurization system. It's active because of the fan. It's passive if the fan wasn't there, and you wouldn't see a passive system on the outside of the home. It would only be on the inside. So basically this is a point where there would be suction. So it would be drawing the gases out from, if it's a crawl space, or if it's a slab on grade, or if it's a basement slab. Either in any of those scenarios, you still have a point where suction's occurring, and it's trying to communicate or draw the gases from the majority of the footprint of the home. And so it's drawing it out and discharging above the eave of the roof. If the heat stack event of the home, right, the natural negative pressure in the home is not doing enough to draw the gases out and to lower the radon level, then a fan is included into this system, and then that helps suck it out even harder, right, and draw it and push it outside. Now, this is obviously a home that had a system constructed in it while it was being built, and that's what I was telling you that some of the affordable housing groups are doing, and there's a number of builders out there building new homes that are doing just this. Without any requirements, because they're just doing it proactively. It's also a great marketing tool for them. For existing homes, the fan needs to be on the outside of the home. You're not going to run a pipe through the entire house in this situation, so you'd carry it outside, install the fan, and again have it discharge above the eave of the roof. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is filling in all the cracks and crevices that exist in a home. So if it's the joints where the floor and the wall come together, or the voids around where the plumbing goes in, or the electrical and so forth, these are all pathways that the radon can come in. So one is generally to prevent as much radon from coming in, and the other is removing as much from the ground area before it can be drawn in through the negative pressure.
Can radon be captured and used as a heating source as part of a green initiative?
No. Yeah, it's a radioactive particle, and its half-life, it's decaying constantly. So its half-life is 3.8 days, and yeah, it wouldn't be used for that.
How can how can radon in well water be treated or minimized?
Yeah, so there are two types of systems. One is an aeration system, or a bubbler, if you will, where the well water is captured into a vat, and then this aeration occurs, and then the gases are spent off or drawn through one tube. The water has gone into the house through another tube. And so there's that, or there's the use of what's called a GAC system, or granular activated carbon system. It's basically a filter, and that filter will have to be disposed of on a regular maintenance schedule. So that's another way of removing it.
And I have a question, because we have a lot of people that live in apartment buildings. So what is something that someone living in an apartment, like, how can they tell if their apartment complex has a system, or, you know, I'm not for sure how the testing, you know, works, but if they test and it comes up positive, what are some of the things that they should do?
So that's a great question. And the resolve, or the answer to whatever issue they're facing, is not one that I have a great answer for. There are a number of landlords that are out there, or people who own rentals, who are proactively installing radon mitigation systems, but that's not the norm, if you will. So the process that the homeowner or the person living there can do is to get a free test kit, and they are real super simple. It's a charcoal pack, right? It's a cardboard. There's charcoal inside of it. You don't remove it. You just open it, you squeeze it and open it up with a little a pouch, and then you just hang it in your room, right? Like your bedroom or your family room. You leave it there for a minimum of 3 days, no more than 7. And then you take the little thing that holds the pouch open out, and you seal it up, much like you do a FedEx package. You pull out the vinyl strip, and the adhesive is shown. You clamp it together. You write the information on the outside that it's asking for. You put it in the mail, and you get the result back. So let's say that an apartment a tenant is actually testing. They find high levels. Then the only thing that I know that they can do is to address it with the owner of the building or the property management group. I've talked to a number of property management groups. So what a tenant can do is, if they need assistance, they can call me. And I don't have any teeth or any legal authority to make anybody do anything. But what I can do is guide the homeowner or the apartment building owner, whatever, to know what the system looks like, what they could do, what the cost would be, so forth. Or I can empower the tenant to know, you know, what is their risk based on the level that they got.
I have 2 more. How would a home buyer confirm an installed mitigation system meets the standards that you mentioned earlier?
That's a great question. So there's a list of questions that are on our website that are intended to empower. Let's see if I can bring that up real quickly. To empower people to know what to ask for and what to expect of someone installing a radon mitigation system. So on our website, here it is, and who is certified to mitigate my home? And when you scroll down, questions to ask your certified professional. So what we recommend is to not, I mean, you guys are engineers, so I'm speaking to you all differently than I would speak to the general public, okay? For the general public, what I'm trying to do is empower them to know what to ask for and what to get in their contract, and not bore them with this is what a mitigation system looks like, here's the checklist, and expect them to do it. Generally speaking, what every certified mitigator is already taught to do is to install per ARST ANSI standards. That's the reason why we're promoting ARST ANSI standards, is because that's what certified professionals are taught to do. And if the contract that a homeowner has with a certified professional to install a system says that they're installing per ARST ANSI standards, and then later find out that the system was not installed that way, then they have leverage, right? Otherwise, you know, to expect a homeowner to figure it out. Engineers might be completely different because you're, you know, actually educated to know a little bit more about the mechanics and so forth. But there is, in fact, in one of the standard, or in each one of the standards books, a checklist that's at the back side of that book. So if you wanted to go to that Dept, if that's the reason you were asking, then it's there in the manuals for you.
And then we have two last questions. Are there any outreach resources available for local health departments to share or distribute? I'm assuming testing kits.
So we opted to not give testing kits out to any provider this time around. The reason is that we only had 6,000 test kits that we could purchase. In terms of materials, so this is the front page of our website, and these are all the materials that I would suggest if you're interested in knowing what you could distribute out to folks. So we have this basic radon and lung cancer fact sheet that actually the Advisory Committee on Cancer Coordination and Control, of which Kirsten and others are involved in, created this. The Sellers and Buyers Guide, so if you're in the real estate process, then there's that. And then there's the Healthcare Professionals Guide, which we're trying to get out to folks who have questions about what are the health implications regarding radon.
And then the last question is, should new wells be evaluated or tested for radon? How can someone get well water tested for radon?
So we recommend that you always test the air first to find out if you have an elevated air level. And if you do, then the question would be, well, where's that radon coming from? And if the home is served by a private well, then you could go down that path to test the water. There are test kits, again, on our website. Should I test my well water? Here's information here about that. But all in all, what we're looking at is a $40 test kit that you could purchase. I believe that we still have some free ones in our office in Raleigh. So if it's a person that's asking and they want to test their own home, certainly reach out to me, send me an email, and I'll get you one. But over the counter, or Amazon, whatever, you're looking at about $40 to test for radon in water. And you'll only want to do that for a private well, because city water is already being treated in a manner that already addresses radon.
You know, I want to jump in here really quickly because I already know the answer to this question, but I think it would be something really interesting, just some interesting food for thought. Councilman Branch made reference a few moments ago in regards to the radon levels in the well water off of Rockaway Road here in Wake County. Phillip, would you be able to share a little bit more about that piece and how it impacts one's health in regards to having radon in your well water?
Yeah, so what we do know is that the radioactive particles can result in stomach cancer. So there is information about that. The other elements that are problematic are more in the bailiwick of the groundwater or occupational and epidemiological office of DHHS. So they're focused on groundwater. So I don't want to reach outside of my silo, if you will. That's what I work in, is radon and air. But I do know that unlike radon, uranium actually has a public health standard. So one of the things that Wake County, who has actually the best website around radon in water, or that for that matter, radionuclides in water. See if I could bring that up while I'm talking. So what they have is so this is Wake County's website. And again, it's the best in, I don't know of any other county that is addressing this issue. And so kudos to Evan Kane and the staff, Amy, and others that are working in the groundwater program and environmental health. They were proactive in communicating to residents of Wake County about this issue several years ago. But nonetheless, a lot has been revealed. They are communicating about radionuclides, but included in the radionuclides, or one of the radionuclides, is uranium, recognizing that it can cause kidney toxicity, and there is actually a public health standard for uranium. So, in terms of treatment, I've already mentioned the aeration and the granulated activated carbon system. The health effects of radon in stomach cancer exists, but if someone is testing for radon, they may want to consult with water quality specialist about testing for other radionuclides like uranium.
Awesome.
Phillip, you always come and you always bring and drop the knowledge, as they say. You're always dropping knowledge in a way that's easy to digest and understand, and in a way in which we can ask follow-up questions to gain a deeper understanding about the issue at hand. So thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, and for generously sharing the information with us during our meeting. Just want to give you a huge round of applause.
Thanks. Well, thanks for the opportunity. I really, really do appreciate it. So there's a need to reach a broader audience than what has been done. I mean, I've been in the program for 10 years now, but the issue's been known since the mid-'80s. So we need to, you know, fill these gaps of knowledge within our state.
Mm-hmm. And Brian has some food for thought. One of the things I was going to say is I piggyback to him. Another one of my hats that I wear is Brian is my amazing colleague with the Partnership for a Healthy Durham. He serves as the co-chair for Health and Housing. And so I serve as one of the co-chairs for the Access to Care Committee, and we're in the process of developing our community health improvement process plans, and definitely have some food for thoughts as to ways that we can implement some of the different recommendations that were discussed on the call today into those plans, so that way we have a little bit more meat to it to be able to move the needle forward to make a positive impact on our community's overarching health. So thank you again for that. And that's Durham. We're coming for you, Lake. We're going to figure out a way.
Yeah. Yes. First, again, thank you, Phillip, for that wonderful information and just how you packaged it. As I was sitting here listening to you and listening actually to Chris's talk earlier, I began to think about a few things, and it's how someone can normalize a pain, because Chris said, you know, his wife was immediately aware that her breathing changed, and how most people, if they are already going through some sort of health condition, oh, this is something I've been living with for years or for months, and they've normalized the pain. What he basically said is to don't normalize pain. So if it's causing your body pain, go ahead and get it checked out. And one of the other things that Phillip brought to us was that he needs help. So there's a lot of people, we have a lot of organizations and community networks that are looking for things to do in our community. He is saying, let's put our feet on the ground and start working with them. So definitely, I know he shared his information with how to contact him. You can contact Kirsten, you can contact this wonderful organization. I'm sure that, and you can even contact me if you know me, if you're here. But we can definitely connect you with Phillip so that we can start this groundwork. It starts with us first. We can't just say, pass it off and say, oh, well, someone else is going to do it. We have to start doing it now. Because I, for one, I'm originally from Pitt County myself. So I remember growing up hearing about different people, you know, dying from lung cancer, but they never smoked. Or, you know, people developing stomach cancers, but they don't know where it came from, you know, and this all attests to, you know, that could have been something that was caused by radon. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but we can't rule it out either. And, you know, so learning a lot about this have even opened my eyes to a few things, even as a public health worker, because now as someone who works with people, I have to now take this into consideration with my assessment with clients that I work with. Hi, what is your housing condition like? Is there lead? Is there radon? Like, what else is happening that can contribute to what you're already dealing with? So I definitely wanted to leave that food for thought, just to kind of get everyone to think on how we can improve our health system.
That is so true. That is so true. And it's great food for thought. And at the end of the day, I strongly feel as though this is going to be one of many conversations that we'll be having, and one of many conversations that we can brainstorm and think of a few next steps and tangible items that we can do. I'm smiling with a big smile on my face because in preparation for our meeting tonight, Brian and I had a very interesting, and we always have lively conversations. And one of the things we kind of talked about is maybe what it might look like in the summertime to do a white ribbon build at a park where we can, you know, be outside, be appropriately socially distanced, and things of that nature, and to partner with some of our key partners that are right here in the state that are already doing work in this space, such as the Lung Cancer Initiative of North Carolina. So those are some things that we can think about down the line, what that may look like, in addition to working with Councilman Branch. That's awesome that he's a former president of this very chapter. Too hype, right? Y'all gonna just leave me hanging. Y'all gonna be so quiet tonight.
Too hype. If anyone doesn't know, too hype is helping your peers excel. So that often gets lost in the collegiate chapters do it a lot, but it's a meaning behind it. And the 2 is because we're region 2 out of all the regions. So
This was awesome. And I would be grossly remiss if I did not say a huge thank you to the executive board for NSBE RTP chapter. Thank you for your support and allowing us the opportunity to have this program and to share this information out with the membership, as well as being able to share out with those that will be able to watch the recording at a later time. So thank you to all of you for your dedication to public health.
and if everyone, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I have a little thing to share. Thank you, Phillip. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Thank you for coming out tonight and for being our keynote speaker. I'm just gonna keep it completely honest, is that a lot of times with NSBE, it's all about supporting the mission. And oftentimes you will find, though, which I think might have to do with the name, but a lot of people shy away from coming out to the organization if they are not a engineer, if they're not African American, African, Black, however they may identify. And so I greatly appreciated you as an expert in the healthcare space, as well as being somebody who I saw on your LinkedIn page that you are seeking to be a good person, right? Or a great person. And I appreciated that and your genuine passion for coming and speaking with us tonight. And so we have, when we were in person and we would have meetings in person, we would give you a certificate of appreciation and hand it to you and take the photo, and it would be signed as well. But thank you for coming out tonight and speaking to our chapter, and for making an impact. I also have Mr. Goings. I have appreciation for you. Thank you for coming out. I wasn't sure if this picture is recent or like it still looks the same, so sorry I didn't have a one, but thank you, and I appreciate your time spent at this program as well, and your expertise and your time in the field. And so we have a certificate of appreciation for you as our guest moderator. So thank you. And we also have like for Chris Draff, and I even have one for Mr. Branch, who briefly came and spoke with us tonight. We appreciate everyone's time. And to Kirsten, thank you for all of your hard work. Kirsten is our public health liaison, and works on all things that a lot of times engineers, and I will say just maybe people in general, are not thinking about in the public health space. And so we've had many amazing programs, thanks to Kirsten speaking up and voicing issues that honestly I had never heard of radon. I could be having radon exposure, and now I know, and it's actually a real and impactful issue. And so I appreciated this program for NSBE to have. And so thank you to everyone, and thank you for the time, and we greatly appreciate having you all. And
Oh yeah, I wanted
oh,
to just extend membership to Brian, to Phillip, Corey get reactivated. You guys don't have to make this the last time we see you. You can always join. So
I joined your Facebook group, at least the one I think is connected.
okay.
Thanks, Phillip.
So too, same here.
And we have two colleagues that have joined us from Chatham County and Orange County. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Thomas Privet. I work for Orange County Environmental Health as a soil scientist, mainly doing septic permitting, but this event was shared by our director, Victoria, as a environmental justice and equity topic of interest. And I'm very glad that I joined in, because I've learned a whole lot. I've heard radon before. I've sort of known very vaguely what it is, but did not have any idea it was as big of a public health problem as it is. And I thank you all for letting random folks from Orange County join you, and Phillip for just excellent information and answering the 42 questions I put in the chat. So just thank you all.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time, and anytime you want to, hopefully I can send you a LinkedIn invite. So thanks for coming out.
Awesome. Well, I think that maybe all of our business at hand, unless anyone else has anything they would like to share. Okay. So without further ado, I wish you all a very wonderful evening. Thank you again for attending the event. We will be able to email out to you if you registered through Eventbrite, or if you were in touch with me via email, information in regards to materials that are included in the lung cancer prevention toolkit that Phillip referenced, as well as we'll be able to send the link to where the recording will be housed, so that you can share that link with your colleagues, as well as to come back and create a refresher. I'm not gonna lie, as many times as I've seen the image in the little movie where they show what radon looks like, it still always makes me say, oh my goodness gracious, really? So again, we will make sure you have that information, as well as the website where you can go to order a free radon testing kit so that you can test your home. Yes, indeed. Everyone order your free kit this week. So tell them, Tony. All right. You guys are so.
I just wanted to say one last thing. That was a very interesting and captivating video, even though it's a hazardous element. But I appreciated that video, so thanks. And the technical information as well, Phillip. So thanks for putting that together. But as sorry, Kirsten, we can go ahead and conclude, and everyone have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Thank you. Great meeting.
Good night.